Well, the Commander ban came and went, but now the destruction is going to show itself, because in today's video we are taking a look, and yes, some of the banned cards are on my sales list of actual cards that sold for massive amounts of money. Just how bad it is, well, you're going to have to stick around and find out, guys, because we are going to get into this. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Top 10. These are the hottest selling cards in Magic the Gathering this week, and there's a lot to go over. Now, before we get this video started, a reminder that if you want to support the Mox Managed channel, don't forget, guys, you can like and subscribe to the channel, but you can also use my TCG Player affiliate link that's found in the description of this video. Let's dive right into the number 10 card this week. And yeah, we're starting out with Dockside Extortionist Double Masters 2022. This card, of course, has been dropping like a rock down to $67.10 since the banning. 1,203 sales, or $80,721.30. Now, for the purposes of today's video, this is the only version I am talking about. There may be some duplication in other parts of this video, but for this particular card, yes, we're only talking about the Double Masters version. So let's not remember how great this guy was. This is a funeral. This is a wake. For all the players who won't use Rule 0 or follow the bans committee to the letter, this is going to be a real hard one to swallow for a lot of players. They know it was on the list. They knew it was kind of on the watch thing to go by. But for a lot of players who owned copies of this card, it's still a hit in the stomach to have wallet value like this just drop off. But let's forget about it and let's go to number 9. Now, number 9 is Roiling Vortex. Now, this card here from Zendikar Rising continues to see strong sales and action. It has 1,326 sales this week, which brings it to a total of $6,616.74. It's been on quite the tear ever since the Valvolgoth deck came around from Commander, and of course this was the release weekend, so I expected the sales to kind of be about where they were, maybe a little bit stronger. This one's going to hold up very well in the midterm, so we'll have to see how it actually plays out. Now, this card here is a 1 red, 1 generic enchantment that says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, Roiling Vortex does 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast the spell, Roiling Vortex deals 5 damage to that player. And of course, you can pay a red, and your opponents can gain life this turn. This one fits in just perfect. A lot of players recognize it, and that's why we've seen such strong sales over the last 3 weeks. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the number 8 card, because Duskmourn is out there, and our next card comes from there. So here we have I keep saying this name wrong. Let's try again. Valgavoth's Lair. All right. Moth Guy. 1,354 sales, $4,102.62. This card's been losing actually a lot of value the closer we got to release. I guess players haven't quite figured out how they're going to make it work, but it's still not a bad card for a rare. Now, when you take a closer look at the card, the sales, the values, this card could see a bounce back later on in 2025, so keep an eye on it. This enchantment land, which is already a bonus, has hexproof. It enters the battlefield tapped, and you have to choose a color. When you do that, you add 1 color of the chosen color to the mana pool, because that's what you chose when it came into play. Not a bad card. We wish it didn't come into play tapped, but there are ways around that, and the fact it's an enchantment land means things like Serra Sanctum actually connect a little bit faster. Don't forget that stuff, guys. There's a lot of connective tissue, a lot of synergy going around. And yes, I'm still thinking about what was going on with the Commander bannings. It's in the back of my head this whole video, but don't worry, we'll talk about it at the end of the video. So for our next card, we've got Jeweled Lotus. This thing was $90 right now, and you can see here, it still had 1,460 sales of this version that I tracked. $131,400 this week alone. Now, guys, that's a massive loss of money, and of course, it's been reprinted. We got etched versions and stuff and crazy full art things to deal with. But the fact that this basic version has lost this much money already from the sales volume, and knowing where this card is probably headed for a lot of players, it's really just crazy to think about, because this card was designed for Commander. Sacrifice Jeweled Lotus, add 3 mana of any 1 color to your mana pool, but spend it only to play your Commander. I had it in my deck. I had to take it out because I do play in some pods that don't allow it if it's not, if it's a banned card. We all understand, guys. This is where it's headed. And because of that, a lot of people decide to sell off their collections, and this is what we're left with. Taking a look at the sales structure and looking at the aftermath of devastation. Now, guys, let's jump into our next card. Let's keep the ball rolling, and let's see what's coming up. Now for our next card, we have Enduring Tenacity, $4.49. Thing dropped off a cliff. You can see it right there on your board. 1,507 sales, $6,799.43 of total sales action. Now the drop of value in this particular card lets you know that players are unsure of how it's going to play out, or a lot got open. There's way more supply in the market than there should be. I'm believing it's the prior, not the latter. I just think players aren't sure how it's actually going to work until they actually see it on the battlefield. They want to try some things out, and sometimes that takes a little bit of finagling, because having that card drop that much of value kind of makes you wonder. Now this thing says whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. When Enduring Tenacity dies, if it was a creature, return to the battlefield as an enchantment. It's actually a pretty spicy card, guys. Not a bad one at all. I'm waiting to see myself. Now for our next card. Okay, here we have Mana Vault, Double Masters 2022. This thing is shot up to 140 bucks. It had 1,973 sales of this version, which is $276,220. Somebody made a lot of money. A lot of sales happened. A lot of action transpired. And I didn't get a chance to even look at things like revised and 4th edition, 5th edition stuff. This is just the Double Masters, okay? We're talking $250,000 of total sales action for this particular version. And that is a crazy, crazy volume of sales. I know stores that sold out of this thing and they had like 15, 20 copies and they're just gone. Okay? It went from like a $60-something card and now it's just gone. Now the price is actually starting to come down a bit. It's receding. But guys, since this is basically your replacement right now, everyone who's playing Commander is buying it, and they're buying it for multiple decks. So the action's not done. It's just on pause till players see what's going to happen. Now for our next card, we're taking a look at Patchwork Banner. This thing ruled the list from Bloomborough for the last 6-7 weeks. It's been insane. 2,512 sales this week, which is still $8,892.48. The market on this is getting a little bit thin. We're having a supply issue now where people aren't just cracking packs anymore, which is making this card even harder to find. But most players by now should probably have their play set of 4. For those who are still looking, yeah, you're going to pay about the same price though, which is good. $3.54. It's not a jump up. It's a 3 casting cost artifact. It comes into play. You choose a creature type. Creatures of that chosen type get +1/+1, and you add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So not a bad card at all. A lot of players are using it, and of course it's going to be around standard for like a couple of years longer. Like it's going to be around for a while. Players are going to have a lot of opportunity to use this thing and mix it in, so I can see why players are buying playsets of 4, and I continue to think that this sales action will continue for several more weeks. Now let's talk about our next card. This is Mana Crypt. Now, I'm showing you the Double Masters 2022, but unlike some videos, the versions do include Eternal Masters and Double Masters. 2,980 sales, that's $541,317 of total sales action. That is $500,000 from these 2 versions alone. Now, I didn't get a chance to check every one, I'm going to be honest. There's way too many going on out there, and I also managed to take into account, for these versions at least, of people who traded into stores for store credit. That's still a sale, and I still record it. Okay, even if it's a sale at a loss, it's still a sale. It got sold to a store, which means it's now on their inventory. Even though they were, taking it at a loss, they were still picking up copies. Keep that in mind, guys. You may be taking a bath on it, but there are people out there still buying this card. 500,000 plus. That's insane. Our next card also comes from Duskmourn, and this is Razorkin Needlehead. This card has an average price of $15.51, total sales of $3,011, which is $46,761. Guys, not a bad card, okay? Like, when you actually see how people have been using this thing, it's pretty insane. I've lost a couple times already, and I remember this being used against me in my pre-release. I wish I had one. Human Assassin, great card. Let's take a closer look though and see what we're talking about. For 2 red, the Razorkin here has first strike during your turn. Whenever an opponent draws a card, it deals 1 damage, so it fits in with Valvalgoth's deck, which is perfect for people, but even on its own, it's actually a pretty good card. A 2/2 for 2 red, that is not a bad penalty to pay for all kinds of crazy stuff. Love this card, and I think this thing actually could go a little bit higher, all the way up to 20 bucks. But it's not the #1 card this week, and I was a little surprised by the #1, so let's take a look and see what we're talking about. #1 this week is Valvalgoth the Terror Eater from Duskmourn. I'm a little surprised, but this guy barely beats out Razorkin. 3,049 sales, which is $76,225 even. That's a lot of money for a new card, okay? Now, this thing does have people kind of whetting their appetite for crazy big beasties. There's lots of players in Magic who want to find ways to sneak this guy out there, and I can understand why. Take a closer look. For 3 black, 6 generic, this legendary creature, Elder Demon, has flying lifelink, ward, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents, and if a card you didn't control would be put in an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, it gets exiled. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with Valvalgoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its cost instead of its mana cost. That's crazy, guys. This card's a lot. But you know what? We have to go back and talk about the bannings here. You can stick around for the end kind of wrap up of the video. We have a little bit more to go over I want to explain to everyone. So there you have your top 10. The hottest selling cards in Magic this week. But now we have to cover exactly what's going on inside those top 10. Mana Vault is the first card we're going to cover. Mana Vault has a natural attrition rate of sale. These sales are real. They are not centralized to a single buyer. They are spread across multiple sellers on multiple platforms that I had access to. I have sales coming in from stores who sold them, who may have had 20 or more copies available. And a lot of these stores did sell at rising prices. Like, they changed the price as the card went up and people were still buying it. I had one store that actually pulled all the card off the stock. They set the price to, I think it was I didn't take the email, but $90 something Canadian. So I guess that's like $70, $75 US. And they just said 1 per customer until they're gone. Can't use the same email. If they knew the people, you can't buy it for your friend. You can buy 1. And they just went until they sold out, which I thought was kind of cool. They kept it there. They realized the market was shifting and they were still making money and moving products. So they were cool. So kudos to you guys. And yes, they wanted me not to use their name because they're not doing it for that reason. So cool for them. Now, when you're looking at cards like Mana Crypt, those 2 versions had massive amount of sales, but that is a smaller capture than what probably happened. When somebody sells 4, 5, or 6 Mana Crypts to a store and they're taking a bath on it, okay? I won't tell you how bad some of the pricing was, but it was pretty bad. They needed to get out, they needed to get out quick, and they needed cash. A few other people took trade-in, they got higher values, but those are all still sales. They're coming into a store. They're going to be relisted at some point, but they are sales. Other people sold different versions of the card, and those were lower, so I didn't record them all. In some cases, I didn't get a chance to even start counting. So I went with the ones I had the highest numbers for. I said, that's pretty impressive, $500,000 plus. And that's just one small YouTube channel coming closer to 25,000, but not quite there yet. And that just shows you where the market's at and how they feel about what's happened with the banning. A lot of negative energy out there. And I still think it'll be shaken off over time. But some people, like a dog in a bone, they're not going to let it go. Okay? Now, when we jump over to a card like Dockside Extortionist, I knew the sales would be lower. I think people kind of knew that card was coming. And some people I know refused to sell it. They're like, no, I'm keeping it. I don't care. I don't care. Just going to play it. Going to put it in a binder. It's going to look pretty, Mox, man. Not doing anything with it. Now, Jeweled Lotus, I actually expected the sales to be much higher. A lot higher. And it looks like that didn't happen. It's still an impressive sales number of the version I could record. And there may be more sales out there over the next few weeks for that card. I don't think it'll make a top 10. I may do a follow-up video on some of these numbers just to let you know kind of where the market's at. But at this point right now, that's still impressive, but not as much damage as I thought was going to be done for a card that's already been reprinted and kind of been around for a while. And people were really upset because that card, Jeweled Lotus, was directly designed to be in Commander. It can only be played in Commander. I mean, there's people who say you can break it for other... It doesn't matter. It's not the same. People were finally happy to have like a Black Lotus style card. So this is where your market's at. The rest of the cards being Duskmourn and stuff all seem to fit in. Patchwork, Banner, Bloomburrow hanging in tough there. A lot of players still seeking out and buying it. It's a great card. Like, I can see why people would want to get 4 just because of the length of how long Standard's in rotation now. It's going to be around for a long time. We don't know where the synergies will be later to maybe drive that price even beyond the $5 mark. So keep an eye on it, guys. So thanks a lot for hanging out with me on the channel today. Don't forget, we have the reserve list top 10 tomorrow, and those numbers are a little bit more different than people will realize because some of this money, I'll be honest, it got flipped into some cards on the reserve list, and we'll talk about that. That'll be in tomorrow's video. And of course, we also have my live stream, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Hope you guys can stop by. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. And of course, it'll be another video. Hey guys, a big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons of my channel. Now, these patrons are pretty awesome. We all know that. That's why their names are here each and every day, man. You can't forget them. You can't escape them. They're the patrons of the channel, the YouTube membership members who make it happen. That being said, if somebody's name has been eliminated and disappeared randomly because of some computer error, please let me know and email me. Thank you, guys. Well, we meet again. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. So, a few things of note. Yesterday's Ramble Jamble, Friday's video, it was there. I think I was editing. I did like an Control-Alt thing to get rid of a small little click thing. And I think it deleted the Ramble Jamble. I didn't notice when I did the upload. So, my bad, but it was late at night. I apologize. I know you missed a Ramble in the Jamble. But we're here now. We're here. I got coffee. Second cup of coffee. Do you know why it's a second cup? Not from Second Cup, but it's a second cup. Because a fly flew right into that sucker. Although I thought about, because, it's good for protein, I just couldn't do it. Guys, there's a lot to be said and to be learned from this event. Because part of me, we're here at the end, we're being honest, part of me says, if these cards go really cheap, I should pick some up for the channel. I should hold on to them for years, because you never know when an unbanning's going to happen. And if I can control a large position to kind of sell back at a cheap price as they're spiking and give them back to the patrons, that's kind of cool, right? That'd be a nice thing. That being said, the price would have to drop pretty low for me to buy any significant number. So I am going to keep an eye on that. For those who are wondering, yes, I'll keep an eye on it, because you never know where this is all going to go. I think the ruling of it being banned will only hold up to groups who care about bannings. Too many people I know now are just saying they don't care. They're going to tell people what they're playing with and that it has some banned cards, and these are the ones, and do you have a problem? So that's where things will be a little bit interesting to see how the groups all get together. We've already had one group say they're going with the bannings, and that meant that the 8 people I play with, like the 2 pod groups, they're not going to be playing with them. They're like, oh, well, we just want to play with you. It's fine. And that kind of division, I knew was going to happen, but it's still disappointing. I'm hoping everyone works it out. I hope everyone plays nice. But please remember, if you're playing Commander with us, we go to win. And we play Group Commander. We'll play like us 4 against you 4. Actually, it's usually 3-on-3. I'm lying. It's 3-on-3. We have 2 groups of 4, though, so I just said 4-on-4. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm wrong, but it's late at night, and I'm drinking coffee. I'm thinking of Talladega Nights now. I'm jacked up on Mountain Dew. Remember that? Anyway, guys, thanks again for hanging out. Thanks for being here at the end. And don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow. Reserve list sales. You know what happens when you take all of your expensive cards that are banned, and as soon as you hear it, you sell things off, and you put that into dual lands? Well, don't worry, because we're going to talk about it. Guys, have a great one. Ramble, jamble.